So guys, I want to talk about the 5 mistakes you're likely making with your home theater. Hey guys, I'm Gene Delasala with Audioholics. So this video topic I think it's very important. I know we always talk about getting the best equipment that you can for home theater. We do the reviews, we do the measurements, but we don't talk enough about the mistakes you might be making when you're setting up your home theater. And I'm not doing this video to disparage anybody or to make fun of anybody. I'm just telling you what I see when I do consulting or when I go to people's homes or when I look in the stores and I look at the setups that people are doing in home theater. And it occurred to me that these 5 things that you could be doing could really be hindering the performance of your home theater. So I want to go over step by step and then tell you how you should fix these problems to improve the fidelity of your system. So before we do that, please like this video, subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification. We've noticed lately there's a problem with YouTube. It's not giving notifications for our subscribers when we're dropping new videos. So I appreciate if you can do that for us. So let's go with the first mistake that I've noticed people often make with their home theater setups, and that's bad speaker positioning. I've consulted with people where they wanted me to improve the fidelity of their system. The first thing they say is they want to get better equipment. Then I go, send me a picture of your setup and let me see what's going on. And then I find that they have the center channel on the floor. That's not a good position for the center channel. You want your front 3 LCR speakers preferably to be at seated ear level position. So when you're sitting on your home theater chair or your couch, you want the tweeters from your front 3 LCRs to be about at the same level, the same height as your seated ear level position. And I've just seen some whacked out setups in the past where the front LCRs, the front speakers are way too close together. And we have videos about how to set up the width of your LCRs with relative to how far away you sit. You know, the golden triangle rule is a starting point, but at least it's something. But when you get these people that are setting up their LCRs and they're not considering placement and they're not doing line of sight for the front 3 LCRs, that could really hinder performance of your system. The other thing that I see, and this is often the case when you go into new homes and you look at construction that these builders are setting up these home theater packages for their clients, they put the front 3 LCRs in the ceiling. I call that a fancy intercom system. You never want to put your front 3 LCRs in the ceiling. Those speakers are far too off axis to give you the direct sound from them without just basically beaming on the floor. So please don't put your front 3 LCRs in the ceiling. So let's go over the second mistake that I often see people making, and that's to block a direct sound path from the speaker to the listener. You'll see these people that get hulking towers in the front, but then, you know, the wife thinks it'll be cosmetically pleasing to stick a plant in front of it, and it's blocking the tweeter. Well, that hinders sound significantly. When you block the direct path of sound from the speaker to the listener with an object, whether it be a couch or a plant or a bookcase or something like that, that's not a good thing. It's okay to put it on the sides. It's okay to put it behind the speaker, assuming that there's no drivers firing behind the speaker. But generally speaking, you don't want to block a direct path of sound from the speaker to the listener. Think of it as a flashlight, okay? Put a flashlight by your speaker and shine it towards the listening area. If there's something blocking that light, then it's not a good thing. That means the sound is also being blocked as well. So that's the second mistake I often see, is blocking the direct path of sound from the loudspeaker to the listening area. So the third mistake I see is people get the speaker positioning good, they set it up, they connect it correctly, but they don't run through the channel trims and delay trims at all. They just basically let it go on default and they don't set the levels. That's a huge problem because the default settings for the receiver, it zeroes everything out. The delays are all set the same. You're almost never going to be in a situation where your listening position is going to have all your channel trims balanced with them all being at 0, because your speakers are at different distances, they have different sensitivities. So that's why you really need to, at very minimum, get an SPL meter. And we have a video on this, and I'll link it up in the video description below, on how to balance your channels from speaker to speaker at the listening area, then you also have to get your physical and electrical delays correct as well. And sometimes people forget to set their delays. So that's the third mistake that I often see that is easily correctable. Even if you don't run the auto EQ, you can get an old-fashioned tape measure and measure the distance from each speaker to the listening area and put those distances into your processor or receiver, and then use the SPL meter and channel balance all of your speakers at the listening area. I'm telling you, if you guys haven't done that, pause the video right now, go set that up, go do your channel trims, go do your delays, then come back and comment below about how much better your system sounds, because I guarantee you it'll sound better if you didn't do that in the first place. So the fourth mistake that I often see people making is they rely on everything the auto EQ system does. And that's especially true with bass management. In almost every case, regardless of how good the auto EQ system is, whether it's YPAL from Yamaha, or it's D-Rack, or it's Odyssey that Denon uses, or it's even Anthem Arc, they're all not perfect. And they almost always mess up bass management. I have a lot of experience with Odyssey because I've done a lot of reviews with Denon and Marantz receivers, and Odyssey almost always sets the channels, the bass management wrong. If you have a surround speaker that's up against the wall, you're going to get what's called boundary gain. So there's a little bit bass reinforcement at certain frequencies, and right away Odyssey is going to identify that speaker as large. You don't want those speakers set for large. In 95% of the cases, you want all your speakers set small, and you want your bass management or your crossover setting at 80 Hertz. And I've seen where it sets towers small and it sets them to 40 Hertz. The problem with setting towers to 40 Hertz is when you're listening to two-channel music and you're relying on those subwoofers to fill in that bass, they're only going to fill in the bass from 40 Hertz and below. And if you want to take advantage of modal distribution of multi-sub, you really want to go to the 80 Hertz. So I would suggest to you that if you run the auto EQ, go into the bass management settings, set all your speakers to small, set your crossovers to 80 Hertz, and you at least have a fighting chance to have a good calibrated system that sounds good. So again, check your bass management. If you're relying too much on auto EQ, go in and manually tweak that. So the final mistake that I often see people make, and we've done many videos on this, is relying on full range auto room correction. There's a lot of problems with full range auto EQ. The biggest problem with that is the fact that that microphone is not as smart as your brain. So it's very hard for that microphone to discern what's going on in the room with your speakers in terms of the direct sound versus the reflected sound. And it's making decisions that aren't always beneficial to your speaker. So if you start with a good speaker that doesn't need any correction because it doesn't have a lot of nonlinearities, and the auto EQ system goes in and it calculates what's going on in your room, and it messes up the frequency response, you're making things worse, not better. So what I usually tell people to do, if you have this ability, if you have Odyssey has a multi-cue editor app, go in and set it up so it stops the correction at 300 to 500 Hertz. I've run Anthem Arc, I've run Odyssey, I've run YPAL, and almost every case I get better sounding results if I limit the correction to say 500 Hertz. 300 Hertz is usually the right one, but 500 Hertz is acceptable. What tends to happen is if you run the full range correction, is weird things to happen. I notice the sound stage, especially with two-channel music, kind of collapses when auto EQ is at full range correction. Don't like it. It just doesn't sound natural to me. Trust your ears. If you ran auto EQ, listen to a two-channel source with EQ on versus EQ off. If you don't think it sounds significantly better with it on, turn it off. If you don't like the way it sounds, but you like the bass that it did, limit the correction. Limit it to 300 to 500 Hertz. Don't do full range correction if you could avoid it, especially if you start with good speakers. So those are the 5 mistakes that I see for home theaters that people often make. I'm kind of curious if you can give me a list down below of what you've seen, what kind of mistakes maybe you've done in the past that you've kind of overcome. Give us some feedback below. Make sure you like the video, thumb it up. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. You get advanced access to content that doesn't always show up on YouTube. You get additional measurement reports that I put there that I don't always put on the editorial side. So there's a lot of benefits, plus you support the channel, and we always appreciate your support. Well, until next time, my friends, keep listening.
When you're ready, we can start.
So bad speaker positioning, blocking a direct path of sound from the speaker to the listener, relying on bass management settings from Audio EQ, not setting your levels at all, not calibrating your system, relying on Audio EQ for bass management, and doing full range Audio EQ. Okay. Ready? Go.
Yeah.
Is it going?
It's going.
It's recording? Are you sure?
I'm very sure.
Okay.